Drink it in. Donald Duck doesn't wear any pants. Gotta appreciate it. Hey everyone, Gary here with Rocksolid Productions. I know, kind of a weird cold open and whatnot, but hopefully it kind of helps sets the tone for a fun sort of video that we have going on here today. The Nintendo GameCube is one of my favorite systems. It, to me, brought some of the first movie realistic sort of Star Wars games into my living room, and I absolutely loved it. There were so many amazing games on this, and well, some duds too, like Mario Sunshine, not the biggest fan of. But with this being a 20-year-old console now, parts are going to wear out. And I have both my Spice Orange Japanese GameCube here. I also have my Indigo down below. That's what you're seeing playing behind me with Sonic R. But over time, you can have issues where it just gets dirty and needs a good cleaning. One of the things that can get the most dirty in your system is the cooling fan. And sometimes they just don't work like what they used to. And that is where Jason over at Game-Tech US and Dan Collings have come together with this awesome retrofit fan kit designed for the Nintendo GameCube. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to go ahead, we're going to dive into our system, we're going to remove the old fan, and we're going to upgrade it with this, and hopefully it's a whole lot more quiet. Now, what I want to know from you down in the comments, what was your favorite color of the GameCube? Obviously, I am very, very partial to the Spice Orange. A, the fact it's a Japanese exclusive. B, the fact I got this for my wife from our first Christmas was really special to me. But let me know down below, what is your favorite color of the GameCube? And no, the Panasonic Q, that doesn't count. Let's go ahead, let's hit the bench. So let's go ahead and get started here. The kit itself includes a 3D printed mount along with a fan and a bag of screws, as you see here. Now, as I mentioned, the mount itself is 3D printed. It does look like it is in PLA. There's a couple little issues, or not even issues, but you know, there are things that now that I've been doing some 3D printing I can see in here, but overall it is a pretty nice overall design. Now, it's curious that the fan was not screwed to the mount right out of the box, but that's something that, you know, we can go ahead and address easily enough. Now, the fan mount is somewhat pre-assembled. There are a couple of screws installed on the right-hand side, and there's this other screw that's on the left-hand side. I'm not quite sure what those are all for. Now, to get inside of our GameCube itself, the first thing we're going to need to do is remove our Game Boy player, since we do have that pre-installed. For that, you can use a common coin or a flat blade screwdriver like what I have here. We're just going to go ahead and back these screws out ever so quickly. With the screws loosened up, pop that right off, set that aside. We won't need this again until we are ready to do our reinstallation. Flipping the GameCube over, there's one of two different types of screws that we'll need. They're both called game bits or security bits. You'll either use a 3.8mm or a 4.5mm. The GameCube uses a 4.5mm. Now, you might be looking at this and wondering, there's no handle. How do you go ahead and remove it? Well, I actually have a couple of different options here. I can go ahead and I can install it into a 1/4-inch drive handle like the one that you see here, and I can do it manually if I would like. There's also those pre-assembled drivers like what you see here that you can get. I'll have links down below to that. But for this, what I'm going to use is my tried and true Hitachi drill driver. One of the things I really like about it is the fact that it has an adjustable clutch, so I can make it as firm or as loose as I would like, so that way I make sure that I'm not damaging any molded composites as I'm screwing or unscrewing into or out of these, 20-plus-year-old game systems. Now, the GameCube is one of the easier systems to get into because it does use literally just these 4 screws. We're going to just kind of test. All right, everything has popped loose and the screws have popped out down below. Make sure that you set those aside in an area that you make sure that you're not going to misplace them. All right, before we take the cover off, one thing you should do, make sure you don't have any discs inside of the system. I also find it very useful to have the lid open when removing. It makes reinstallation a little bit easier. Now, inside of our system, and I don't know that I've been inside this one, here you can see the fan unit itself. Get back here, you. And it is absolutely filthy. Now, there are 2 screws that hold this down onto our mounting plate inside of the system itself. We'll need to back those out. Removing the back cover definitely makes this job a whole lot easier. Like I mentioned, if you haven't done so yet, make sure you toggle the power button a few times just to make sure you discharge any capacitors or anything along those lines when you're in here, and make sure that you don't hurt yourself or components. Let's unplug the power supply and the fan unit itself. Now these are a little bit of a tight struggle to get out of here. We're going to go ahead and just take our time. If it's not coming, there's a reason why. Now I could use a tweezers, and I may grab my tweezers here in a moment. Let's see if I can get it come on you. There it is. That's the old fan, and then there is the power supply. Those are unplugged there. Now we do have to get out these two screws here. Now I could use my Hitachi, but the problem is the fact that they are further down, at least the one on the left is. So I have this other little cordless driver that I use here. I got this at Walmart for, I want to say about $5 or $10, and it came with a variety of different bits. And it did come with an extension as well that'll make it perfect for getting that back screw out. Now the unfortunate thing about this is the fact that this tip is not magnetized, so it likes to fall out, which is kind of a pain. Now, it does not operate as quickly as what my Hitachi does, but it is very safe to use on these molded composites. Now, I really didn't need the extension to get that first screw out. It's this back screw that it's really going to make life a whole lot easier to get around. That other board, the power switch and everything, I can get at that screw. I'm not coming at it at an angle, and it's one of those things that I'm unscrewing straight up and down so I'm not damaging the threads. At this point, there's nothing. Come on, you. How do you get out of there? Let's get that screw out of here first. Using a forceps, a tweezer, something along those lines to get that out, probably going to be a little bit easier. There we go. Let's get our tweezers out. Pop that up. Set it next to the other screw. All right, we are good. Now, how does this come out of here? I think, well, do I slide it out on the bottom? No, I think I angled the top forward, and that should bring everything else out. Let's see here if we can't get this open. Almost. Come on. There it is. Awesome. Now, I do think we'll have to transfer this board out as well, but look how filthy this original fan unit was. Thankfully for me, this was still working, but who knows how much life that I had left in this. This is one of those things I'm definitely going to go ahead and be glad that I am upgrading and replacing. Now let's set our GameCube aside and transfer what components we need to over to our new mount. Now, one thing, we will pull this board off of here. Same thing, we are just going to use our little tiny electric screwdriver, back that screw out. We'll set this screw aside in a second so we can reinstall it into the new one. Now, I'm not going to throw this old fan mount away. I'll probably clean it up a little bit if I ever decide to sell this, that I still have it. But this way, oh man, this is going to be a whole lot nicer. Now looking at this, oh, it looks like I actually, that's what that screw is there for. I can go ahead and just back this out. I'll thread this other old screw back into the molded mount here in a second, and I'll be able to save that again if I needed to. This will only go in one direction, so that is important to note. All right, so we've got the board mounted to our 3D printed fan mount. Let's get this screw in here. Again, this is one of those where having a magnetized tip on the end here would definitely make things go a little bit easier and more smoothly. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to back the threads out a little bit before screwing in. That way it makes sure that I'm cutting good threads going in here. And then we will need to go ahead and put the screws in on the back of the fan mount to hold everything together. Again, I'm a little curious why Jason, I mean, it's probably just a labor thing. It would take him more time to put this kit together if he were to pre-install these screws. Now, these are pretty coarse threads, so it's not going to take many rotations for you to go ahead and tighten these down. Do not over tighten these screws. Here's the thing, is that 3D printed material a little bit more flexible than what an ABS plastic would be, like what the original mount was made out of. If you over tighten these screws, you may run into issues where the fan may rub against the molded housing, or I'm sorry, the printed housing on the inside. So make sure that you go ahead, only tighten them down as tight as you need to secure them. The other thing, PLA, the 3D printed material, it's a lot easier to strip out than ABS plastic, so if you crank them down, you're going to strip out your thread holes. And we'll get our fourth and final screw installed here and be ready to plug in the power supply for the fan into the board. Now this lead is considerably longer than what the stock one is, so you want to make sure that you go through and route your wiring in such a way that it's not interfering with anything, either the way the case will close, the fan itself, or anything along those lines. The fan will only plug in one port and in one direction, so kind of be aware of that. I did have it mixed up as far as where it plugged in, but we got it figured out. We've got that plugged and ready to go. Now we're actually ready to go ahead and we're going to reinstall this screw into the original mount, and then we're going to put the fan mount into our GameCube. All right, so bringing our system back onto the bench. And one thing I have done is I have taken a can of compressed air and I blew out a lot of the dust that was in the system itself. This system, like I say, I don't know that I've ever been inside it. It was pretty gross and nasty. Now the easiest way I think is going to put the top in first and then kind of slide it and angle it in to kind of catch those lower retaining pins that are on the bottom. Come on, you. All right, we have it aligned. I think there it is. It popped right into place. We're going to wait to plug in the power supply until after we have the screws back in. It's easier to not have to work around the wiring than to just have them not there. So we're going to use our tweezers to drop in the screw on the left-hand side towards the back of the system itself. Kind of push it in place, grab our little electric screwdriver. Now this doesn't have too many threads, so I could have just used my manual Tamiya screwdriver you saw me use just a few minutes ago. Now one thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to back out the screw a couple of turns. It'll set into place and then I will begin to thread it in. Now I also want to make sure I am not overly cranking these screws down because I want to make sure that I'm not binding anything up or potentially stripping out the screw threads in the bosses underneath this fan mount. All right, we've got that one in. Grab the other screw and back that screw out, screw it in. Sorry for having my hands in the way. Hope you understand. All right, everything is tightened back down. Now we'll go ahead and connect the power supply. We're gonna route the wire through. It has this kind of keeper and whatnot, very similar to what the original one had. Again, we want to make sure that we are routing our wires in such a way that they're not getting pinched inside the case when we go ahead and reassemble everything. Just kind of push the wires into place. There they go. I'm going to use my tweezers just to kind of pull them back a little bit more. All right, we've got that all routed, and now we're going to plug in our power supply. We're going to go ahead and put the back on. Making sure everything is aligned. We'll double check too to make sure that there's no excess dust, and this actually looks pretty good. The wire for the fan is super long. Again, it just makes sure that you're routing it in such a way that you're not obstructing the disk drive, that you're not obstructing the fan, that there's no moving pieces that it's going to be in the way of, and that it's not going to inhibit you closing up the case. Speaking of closing up the case, let's go ahead and, now I did blow out the vents on the case here just to make sure that everything was clean. You know, again, just trying to make sure that I'm not sucking dust and dirt into the system like I had, or like what was there before. And the main thing, again, make sure there's nothing interfering. If it feels like you're getting excess resistance or the case is not closing properly, there is a reason why. Slide it off, open it up, make sure you don't have any wires in the way, make sure you don't have anything getting pinched, anything getting bumped. You know, anything, if it's not going down, there's a reason why. Get everything lined up with the front and rear tabs. Slide that down, kind of work my way around the case. There we go. Close the lid. Now the power button was actually down, so I did go ahead and hit that again just to pop it back up. Now we're ready to reinstall our 4 security bits. Now generally speaking on here, I recommend doing it in a kind of cross pattern just to make sure that you have everything squared up when you go ahead and reinstall it. And again, I'm backing out the threads slightly and then screwing them back in from the left rear to the right front to the right rear now. And now going to the left front. Actually, yes. Well, as you're looking at it, would be the left front, wouldn't it? We're just going to go ahead and tighten these down by hand. Everything feels good there. Time to reinstall our Game Boy player, and that just drops right back into place. We'll tighten our screws back down. Now this actually goes into a metal fitting, so you don't necessarily need to back it out. Tightens right in. And the nice thing again, this is a pretty slow cordless screwdriver, so I can feel the resistance pretty easily there, but everything is back together. Let's go ahead, let's hook it back up, let's test it out. I want to see how quiet this is. We have our GameCube reinstalled back in our racking system and everything. I've got our Prism HD connected. Let's go ahead and power it up and see exactly how quiet it is. Oh, there is no disc in here right now. That's crazy how quiet that is. Let's give you a closer listen. That is stupendous how absolutely silent the operation now is. So there you have it, how you can quickly and easily and with relatively little electronics experience upgrade the fan unit in your Nintendo GameCube with something that is quieter, it is more efficient, and it's a lot less dusty. Thanks to Jason and Dan for coming together and creating such a great kit. I absolutely appreciate it, and it is something that I will be adding to my Spice Orange GameCube that you see here. Again, thanks to my amazing wife Ginger for getting this for me many years ago, and Jay over at Square Pegs. Yes, Jay, I remembered the name of your channel.
It's Square Pegs, Gary. I am Jay. The channel is Square Pegs. It's not that hard to remember, dude. Come on.
Okay, Zoomer.
You don't have one of these. But just a little fun between friends there. Absolutely a terrific kit. Something I highly recommend. And for about $35, you really can't go wrong. It's cool. It works really, really well. If you do have any other comments or questions about this, if you need help getting something like this, either where to get it or how to do it, make sure you leave those questions down below in the comment section. I have a link where you can pick this up through Jason at Game-Tech US as well. If you're looking for any other videos that we've done on the GameCube, different controllers, the Prism, other things that we've done with modern and retro gaming systems, those videos are coming up for you right now. Thank you for watching this video. If you would like to support the future of Rock Solid Productions, you can do so by visiting our Patreon page at patreon.com/rocksolid. For as little as $1 a month, $12 a year, you'll get early access to all of our video content, exclusive content, and a whole lot more. You can also become a channel member here on YouTube for as little as $1.99 a month, and with that, you get a badge next to your name when you comment or post on the channel, and you are acknowledged whether you are a channel member or a Patreon supporter at the end of each and every one of our videos. You can also support the channel by visiting our Teespring store on screen now, where we have t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, masks, cell phone cases, and much more. Again, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you soon.